everybody. Today I'm going to be tying Pat Dorsey's Medallion Midge. So far I've only tied Pat Dorsey flies, but he makes some really great midge imitations, so that's why I'm fishing in these winter months. But yeah, this is a really great fly. I usually like to fish it in later winter, kind of imitating that big spring midge. However, it's just a killer midge imitation all around. It's definitely a little more unconventional compared to other midge imitations, so it's definitely a great last resort. Or if the water's really low and you're looking for a hyper realistic pattern, this is a great direction to go in. So, yeah, let's get into it. For the hook, I'm using a TMCO 101 in a size 20. You can tie this in a size 18 down to a 22. It gets tricky past the 22, but you could tie it smaller in theory. So, and then yeah, for thread, I'm using some A-Dot uni thread in brown. So yeah, let's get into it. Starting off, just attach your thread right behind the eye and clip the tag. And the first material we're going to use is some white 6-aught uni thread. Now, this pattern is kind of an offshoot of the top secret midge, so this step is going to be the exact same. So, if you watch that video, I mentioned how you don't want to overhandle this thread because when you start handling this thread, it'll start to fray and you won't get as clean of a rib. So, make sure to handle it the least amount as possible. So, cut a good 6 inches, and what I like to do is I like to overextend it past the eye, and I like to take a loose wrap. Then I like to grab that thread with my thread and then pull it through until I've just thread them out. Then I can lock it down. Let me unravel that for you. So once I do that and it's locked down, I'll start bringing that thread back to the bend so we can use it as our rib. Try and keep this body super smooth. I find the rib on this fly can be super temperamental, even compared to the top secret midge, because it is on that straight shanked hook. So, and then resume your thread back up to where you tied in your white thread. Now, once you do that, you can start ribbing your fly, and you're gonna want tighter a tighter rib than you usually would want, because a lot of this body is gonna get covered up in the next step. So you're gonna want to make a real tight, neat rib, not a lot of gaps. And once you get back up to your thread, your brown thread, you can tie off your rib. And the way I like to do this is I like to wrap my brown thread around the white thread a couple times. You can see that there, right in here. It's kind of married around each other. Then you can bring that brown thread down the white thread and take 2 wraps, and it's tied off. So that's a nice way to get clean tie-offs on these ribs on small flies. You can do that with wire as well. So now that we've done that, we're going to use kind of the main material for this fly, which is some Swiss straw. Now, the original pattern called for medallion sheeting, but it was discontinued a few years ago, I believe, so you can't really find it anymore. So if you have some medallion sheeting laying around, use that. But if you can't find it, use some Swiss straw. It's a little more tricky to work with, but it's all we have. And this is in a dun color. I find it's the best color for this fly. And the trick to preparing this stuff, because it's a lot thicker than the medallion sheeting, so what you want to do is you want to spread it out, like pull it, spread it out into this thin little sheet. So before it was all kind of bunched up, so you're unrolling it. And then what you want to do is cut little strips off this. You can use, I would honestly use craft scissors for this over tying scissors, but I don't have them handy. So, and you're going to want pretty small little strips. I find about 1.5 hook gaps in width. So, a decent little, pretty thin, but a nice little chunk. It doesn't matter for it to be super neat around the edges because you're going to kind of roll it up when you tie it in. So, and I'm going to speed up the video because I'm going to need 3 of these in equal sizes. So, I'll be right back. Hello there. I am editing the video now, and I just wanted to say thank you for the support I've been getting for these videos. It means a lot. I also wanted to mention that if there's a fly you want to learn to tie, you can put it down in the comments, and I will try to do a video on that fly. So, yeah. With that being said, let's get back to the video. Okay, I am back. If you're tying a big batch of these too, you can also, kind of pre-cut a bunch of strips because it really does save quite a bit of time. So I have a few here. I'm going to pick out some of the best looking ones. And you're going to want to use 3, like I said before. And the first one that I like to tie in is the top one. So we're going to lay one right on top of the hook shank. And then tie that back. And you're going to cover up a lot more of this fly than like you think you want to, because the wing case on this fly is a lot bigger than the traditional one. So even more than that, just go back. You're going to want to cover up about 40% of the fly with this wing case. So pull it forward, see how much you have. That's about the right amount. So a nice big thorax on this fly. So, and then we get to tie in our 2 other pieces. And the thing to keep in mind with these is that you're going to have 2 on the edges, so 2 on either side, and 1 directly on top. So, and then once we're done with that, we're going to pull them forward after this next step. So, ooh. It can be a little temperamental to tie these in too. I usually like to tie them in the center of it, because then you don't crowd the eye with that medallion sheeting. So, it is fighting me a little bit right now. There we go. And then go back to where you tied in that second piece. So equal length. And I've tied in my side and the top, and I'm going to tie in your side. And you can tie this fly, brown is the original color. I like the brown. You can tie it in black with a white rib. I think you can also tie it in like chartreuse with a white rib. You can tie it in any color you want, but brown is the original, and it is a great pattern. So once you have all your 3 strands tied in, pull them all forward to make sure they're all looking good, nice and neat. And then you're kind of gonna want to fold them all back. And you'll notice when you tie this in, you kind of get a thorax going, a nice thick thorax. So the next material we're gonna use is a little bit of superfine dubbing in rusty brown. And you're not going to want very much of this stuff. You're not trying to add volume. You're just trying to cover up that thorax that you've already made by tying in that medallion sheeting. Because also, when you fold that medallion sheeting back over this dubbing, you're going to fold it on top like this. And that also adds quite a bit of bulk. So try to keep this a lot thinner than you probably think at first. So dub that onto your thread, trying to get a nice thin uniform dubbing noodle. And once you do that, you're going to want to go back to where you tied in that Swiss straw and go forward all the way to the eye. So this part is also very similar to the Top Secret Midge. And yeah, so the first one I like to fold forward here is the top one. I'll get you a better angle. So I'm going to fold that over. Then I'm going to take a wrap. It's hard for me to see. There we go. So pull that flush and tie down. So as you can see, it's not covering up the sides, just the top. And then I'm going to take a second wrap to lock that down. And then what I'll do is I will take the sides and repeat that process. So I'm going to fold this up so I can see a little better. And this is really the point where things start getting difficult in this fly, because the Swiss straw can sometimes kind of be a pain to work with. Wants to leave little gaps in the thorax. You can see right there, there's a gap in between the dubbing and the Swiss straw, and I don't want that. So I'm going to try and cover that up. I may have to unwrap that second one. It just takes time. This step, it's definitely not the quickest midge imitation to tie it. it's definitely can be annoying. So take your time though, and make the finished product right, because this step will make or break the way the fly looks. So once you've tied in that second piece, and every time I tie in one of those strands, I'm taking 2 wraps to lock it down. Now I will take the final one on my side. I'll do it like this so you guys can see. Doubling it over, taking a wrap over, then a second wrap. Now, once you've done all that, you're going to want to fold all these parts back, and these 2 side parts, so this one right here and this one, we're going to fold back as wing buds, like the legs sort of. So I like to do that first. So I like to take a wrap. Here, I'll put that back up like this. I like to take a wrap, pinning that down, and then I like to move the second one into position and pin that one down in the same wraps. And once again, take 2 wraps, secure that down nice and snug, and now you have your wing buds in place. And the eye really does get messy with this fly, so take your time. Once again, these steps right here can make or break your fly. So once you have those wing buds set back, you have this last one to deal with, and we're going to trim that off. What I like to do is I like to fold it back first, take a couple wraps, and then cut it. And sharp scissors help here. My scissors, I need new scissors, so this might not be the best looking cut. But once you do that, you want to take your fingernail and fold that over itself. Take your time. And then you're going to take a few wraps on that. And once you've done that, you're going to want to make a little thread head on this fly. So just kind of finishing up, making it nice and smooth and glossy so none of that Swiss straw is showing, as you can see. And now the last step we're going to do is we're going to whip finish and then cut the wing buds. So take your whip finisher, take 3 or 4 wraps with it on top of that thread head, kind of finishing it off. Seat that down and run your scissors across that thread to clip it. Now, what we can do is we can trim these wing buds. Now, the way I like to do this is I like to run it back along itself, and I like to take my scissors and I like to take an angled cut on that wing bud. So as you can see, about that length. I like it to match up just a little bit longer than the thorax. So let me do this one. You might want to twist this too if it's kind of unraveling a little bit and it's a little too big. You can twist it and then make your cut. That one was a little too long. And yeah, this is a great little pattern of fish. Like I said, especially in the winter months, I find it is a super realistic pattern of fish in the riffles or those deep pools, slow moving areas in the wintertime. Super great fly. And yeah, like I said, if you have any of that medallion sheeting laying around, use that for sure. But the Swiss straw is what's left. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your holidays, and tight lines.